Hi, everybody. Hello, hi. Thank you for putting your hellos on the chat. Great, we're going to get started. So thank you so much for coming and attending today. My name is Fern Deacon and I am a photographer and actress living in Manchester. So before we get started, I just wanted to ask if you'd like to put in the chat a little bit about yourself. A couple of people have already doing it already, but maybe where you're from, what do you shoot with? Are you a content creator, photographer? Just anything that you would be comfortable sharing, just pop it in there and I'll have a quick look. Wow, we've got lots of different people coming from all over the world. It's super exciting. So thank you for joining. Hello, everyone. Great. Cool. So we're just going to get started. So today my webinar is about creating elevated self-portraits, reels and content. I use Instagram quite a lot and I like to post my self-portraits and stuff on there. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to do today. So this is kind of the setup for the first hour. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about lighting, about getting inspired, how to shoot self-portraits is quite a different process to normal shooting, some posing ideas, and a little bit about editing. So to kick us off, I'm just going to give myself a little introduction. I'm really sorry, you're going to see a lot of pictures of me throughout this as it's self-portrait. So yeah, I do apologize. I'm not that much of a narcissist, I promise. But I just thought it'd be helpful for you guys to see the kind of portraits that I shoot and how my process works. So as I mentioned earlier, I am an actress. I've been acting for 15 years and I'm also a photographer and I've been taking pictures professionally for the last 5 years. It's been a really interesting experience being on both sides of the camera and I really enjoy both equally. And now developing my self-portraits and looking into how I approach photography from being in front of the camera to behind the camera, and hopefully I can share a little bit more about my process and journey. I have a photography studio in Stockport and it's very different. We have lots of leopard print and velvet curtains and things like that. I'm really drawn to vintage style photography, so that's kind of the stuff I like to go for. I'm really excited to share a little bit more about my process. I am definitely not an expert on technical things. I am entirely self-taught in terms of photography. However, I really hope my process is interesting to you, and we do have some great people that can also answer any questions on the technical side as well. So that's just a little bit about me. This is the kind of self-portrait I really like to do. I love high contrast. I love characters and I love using props. I literally shot this at home using Harlowe's Lighting and using just a plain white backdrop, and it was super simple, but I think they're really creative and interesting and different. It's kind of the style I love to create. This is a shoot I also did while I was on holiday, and I kind of just want to prove that you don't have to have all the equipment, all the gear set up to do a self-portrait. This literally was balancing on a picnic table, but I just really liked the view and what I thought I could create while being in a sunny place for once. And that's kind of the approach I like to take to photography. I like to just not take it too seriously and really think about creating interesting and thought-provoking images. So this might seem like an obvious one, and I know probably everyone on here knows what a self-portrait is. However, I just thought I'd just reiterate a couple of points. So a self-portrait is the solo art of taking a picture of yourself, usually without others involved in the creative process. You are the subject and the photographer. And this is like my favorite bit about self-portraits, is you really do have so much creative control, and it's really therapeutic process. Plus there's no judgment. you're sort of there on your own. You get to really think about lighting, think about your props, think about your facial expressions. And my sort of ethos and theory behind this is I think it makes you a better photographer all around if you can really develop your self-portraits, simply because I think if you can learn to light yourself in a nice way, then your clients are going to be happy, because I always think we're all our own worst critics. And I think learning how to light yourself in the most flattering way and also making yourself feel comfortable in camera, you're also going to know how to comfort your client if they're a bit nervous, or think of ways to light their face that are in a great flattering way that they're comfortable with. So I really enjoy doing self-portraits, and I think it really helps with your creativity and your photography. So I urge you, if you don't take pictures of yourself, it's definitely worth giving it a shot. It's quite funny and interesting, but you learn a lot about photography in the process. So I just wanted to ask, what is the difference between a selfie and a self-portrait? If you want to put on the chat any of your ideas or things, or whether you think they're the same or different, if you'd like to pop anything on there, and I will see what you guys think. Selfies too close up. Okay, interesting. Yep. Has anyone else got any things they might think are a bit different between self-portraits and selfies? Yeah, need long arms. That is very true. Yeah. Well, for me personally, I think there are a few differences to self-portraits and selfies. One of them being that it's kind of like you have to be a lot more spontaneous when you're doing selfie. You don't necessarily plan. You're not thinking, oh, what backdrop am I going to use? What kind of dramatic facial expression am I going to pull? And you're normally taking them with the front of your phone. You're also extending your arm out, and it's less about creativity and more about capturing a moment. You might argue with this because you can take super creative selfies. There's absolutely nothing wrong with spontaneous selfies, and you can take planned selfies as well. And I know a lot of people do spend a lot of time on selfies, but for me personally, I find self-portraits, you can plan a lot more. You take a bit more time thinking about the lighting, thinking about the composition of the image. And, you know, you usually take them on a camera, but it's not necessarily, don't have to. And I think they're a bit more purposeful. But, you know, a lot of people might disagree. So I'll just check the chat now. But yeah. Selfies usually a phone. Yeah, picture. Yeah, quick, fun, casual. Yeah, you're all on the right track. 100%. That's what I was thinking. Right, so I thought we could talk a little bit more about lighting and the reason why we're here. So thank you to Harlowe. I have been collaborating with Harlowe for the past 2 years. One of the reasons I reached out to Harlowe in the first place was I was struggling to find aesthetically pleasing lighting for my studio. And for me personally, I find a lot of camera gear can be a bit clunky and a bit unsightly. Not that that's a bad thing. Obviously, if it does the job, it does the job. But I was really looking for something that would look nice, and it could be out in my studio. It's quite a small studio, so I don't have a lot of storage. So I wanted my lights out. And that is the reason I approached Harlowe. Firstly, because I absolutely love the way they look. And then secondly, was that they're actually amazing, amazing lights too. So I have them out in my studio all the time now, and a lot of people comment on them. They think they're really cool and really lovely to use, and they're super easy. So I'm just going to explain in a little bit more detail the ones that I'm talking about today. I'll just quickly run through. I don't know if you're all familiar with Harlowe's lighting, but I will just quickly run through the different ones. So this one is the Iris, and is one of the ones I use the most on holiday and when I'm going to shoots on the go. And it's a really amazing light. This is it here, if you can see it on the screen. And you can see here, I'm using it on a white backdrop at home. It comes with this amazing light. And if you can see, It's the magic lens, and it's a really cool kaleidoscopic effect. And I've used this a lot to make the backdrop more interesting. You can add these colored filters, and they make really amazing effects on the backdrop. And I found this to be super easy. It's absolutely tiny, it's really lightweight and really easy to use. And it just adds a bit of intrigue and interest to images. Plus it's super powerful, and you can literally, it's magnetic, and you can pop these different lenses and bits on. And I absolutely love to use this one. So it's a really cool one to use if you're just starting out in photography, or if you want something that's a bit different that you can take on the go with you. And here are some of the images I created with this particular light. This was literally me stood in a dark room holding this in different positions around my face to practice with it. As you can see, it creates a really cool groovy effect, and you know, lighting it from above your head and from the sides, it really creates some really dramatic visuals on your face. So I really enjoy using this one, and I've found a lot of use from it. The micro is one of the first ones I ever got introduced to, and this is really, really useful. I've taken this on so many shoots, and also is really great for self-portraits. Reason being is they're all magnetic, and these all just fit on to the front of the light, and you can change these filters. So I really enjoy working with red colors. So I'll just quickly show you what you can do with this one. So it just turns on there, and this is kind of the effect it creates. And I've used this for so many different things. I mainly use this as a backdrop light, just because it's super tiny, it's lightweight, it doesn't get in the way of pictures. And I've taken this with me on a lot of shoots as a great backup to the Mini as well. So yeah, it's a really great one if you're starting out, and if you are taking portraits that are on the go. So our next one is, oh, I'll just quickly show you. This is actually some of the images I've taken with the micro, and as you can see, it creates really cool effects on your face. It kind of really fills and is really powerful, and yeah, I use the red filter the most, the color gel. So and I really like the way it looks, so I'm quite happy with those. The Mini is one of the most brilliant lights I think I've ever used, and I literally do take this with me everywhere, and it is currently lit, lighting my face at the moment. So as you can see, you can probably see it on here. It's probably better that way, but I have used this for so many different things. I've taken portraits, commercial portraits for people. I've also used it a lot for my self-portraits. And yeah, as you can see, this is just a reel I made of how I made that picture earlier. So it has barn door accessories. It has really great battery life. The thing I love the most about it is I do a lot of dance shoots with lots of people dancing around the camera, and I'm always paranoid about wires, and this is obviously wireless. It has really good battery life, so I tend to stick it in the middle of the dance floor, and people dance around it, and I just really, really think it's a really versatile light. It also comes with some great color gels, so I take them with me everywhere as well. You can also get barn door attachments, and again, it's super easy to use. You can also get like a Bluetooth app. Harlowe has its own app, so you can control the lights from your phone, which is also really useful for self-portraits. You can keep just adjusting the lights while you're in position, which I find really, really helpful. It also has lots of built-in effects, which I really enjoy using too, and it's really great for filming as well, so if you're into that kind of thing. And this is what I created using this light. I personally really like the way what kind of light it gives off, and yeah, I'm quite happy with how these turned out. And this is another exciting light, and I'm going to explain a little bit more why in a minute, and you might know this already, but this is one of their newest releases, and this is the Sol 5, and this is super, super fun to use, especially if you are just starting out in content creating. If you're just using your phone, I personally think this is really, really cool. This is it here. I've got my blur on, so sorry, it's we can't see it, but I've used this for when I'm creating reels, when I'm shooting on my phone, and when I've done self-portraits on my phone. It also is really cool. It's got this mirror. So if you want to shoot the other way around, you can see yourself. If you want to use the better camera on the back of your phone, then you can still create self-portraits and see yourself while using it. It's super powerful. And also what's great about this is we are giving away one at the end. So I'm just going to put up what you need to do if you would like to have a chance of winning this. You just need to follow Muse by Lemesca, which should have popped up now. And yeah, you can be in with a chance of winning one of these. It's really lovely to use, super intuitive, and mag-safe as well. So it can stick to the back of your phone. And if you haven't got a magnet phone, then you can also get a magnet and it will stick on. And it's really powerful and it's not going anywhere. So I'll just give you a little quick demo. But yeah, I really like working with this particular light. It's really great if you're just doing content. And this is it boosted and on the back of my phone. Probably not the best way to demonstrate on a webcam, but yeah, it's super powerful. So yeah, if you would like to enter into that draw, then make sure you're following Lemesca for a chance to win. So I just want to show you what I've managed to create using the Sol 5. This was shot on my phone, and I used the iPhone timer. And again, it's very similar to a selfie, I suppose, but this took me a lot longer to edit. I find when I'm shooting on my phone, it does take out a lot of the detail on images, but I experimented with my hands close up to the camera to kind of create something a bit different. And this is all just shot on an iPhone and lit using this. So yeah, it's really powerful if you're just starting out in content creation. So I wanted to open it up and ask you guys what kind of content you guys create. So I'm just going to do a poll, and if you wouldn't mind answering, that would be really great. It would be really interesting to see what you guys kind of content excites you, and what kind of stuff you want to create. Cool. Portraits. Okay. Landscapes, videos, mixed media. Amazing. Okay, great. So we've got a lot of people on here that want to do portraits. Super interesting as well, landscapes. That's absolutely amazing. Playing with lighting. Fab. Okay, I'll keep watching that as we carry on. Thanks for putting your answers in there. Now, I wanted to share a little bit more about the sort of technical side. This isn't a side that I tend to delve into too much because I just love to have fun and create images and learn as I go. However, all these amazing lights, you know, have this CCT, which is a color temperature. So you can, I'll just read it out so you can understand a bit more. It's measured in Kelvin and tells us if a light looks warm or cool blue. I tend to gravitate to the more warmer side, just simply because that's the kind of style of images I like to create. I like warm candlelit vibe images. However, I have used a more cool light on my images as well to create a more harsh effect, as you can see on those previous pictures I took. The colouring rendering index measures how accurately colours appear under a light source. So a low CRI light might take skin tones, make them look a bit strange, whilst a high CRI light makes colours look natural. And of course, lumens measure how bright a light is. So the more lumens, the brighter it shines. So this is just a very simplified version of the sort of technical side of lighting. I don't always tend to delve too deeply into that just because I like to experiment. I like to see what it is visually, and then I can understand it a little bit more. But if you're into that, you can also find out more about the lights and the specs and the tech on Harlowe's website. So this is just a quick example. This is on this side, it's the warm CCT, and this is on the cooler CCT. Both have interesting and different effects. But personally, I always gravitate to a warmer side. And you can see these on, oh, I don't know if you can show you on my blur, but on all these lights, it has a CCT, so you can adjust the color and the warmth. I can quickly show you. Yeah, there you go. You can sort of see it there. And that's making it slightly cooler, as you can see. And this is making it slightly warmer. So yeah, you've got a lot of control using these lights. So I know probably everyone on here knows a lot about continuous and non-continuous lighting. So today we're just talking about continuous lighting. Continuous lighting, it provides a constant, steady light source. The light is always on and remains a consistent intensity while you're working. And obviously non-continuous lighting is referred to as strobes or flashlights and powerful bursts. So that's just a quick rundown on what these lights are. These are continuous. Getting inspired. So now we're on to the exciting part, and I love this part of photography, and it's kind of the thing that I really enjoy, coming up with different ideas, experimenting with the lights, the props, the costumes, and I definitely encourage you guys too. Does anyone use lights, props? What kind of things does everyone use to shoot self-portraits? Does anyone have any sort of processes or things they like to use at the moment to get inspired? Maybe different apps. Does anyone use any kind of apps? If you want to put on the chat what kind of things you use to get yourself inspired, books, anything in particular? Anyone else? I will share a couple of bits. Yeah, Instagram's a great resource, definitely, Sue. Yeah, I use Instagram a lot, and I always find it. Yeah, Pinterest is a great one. Yeah, lighting and books, great. So I just want to share a couple of what my my favorite resources are. I love Pinterest. It's one of my favorites. I just love that you can create different mood boards, you can create different ideas. There's also loads of posing tips in there. There's lots of different resources, and I just think it's a great way to get inspired. Super quick, super easy, and it's on the go. So if you see something that you want to recreate, you can always look on Pinterest for ideas and ways to gather those kind of like images and inspiration, and it's all on your phone. One I've also been using recently that I've really enjoyed using, and I think it must be fairly new, is FrameSet. And FrameSet is really interesting. It's very powerful, and it will trawl the internet to find out different cinema frames. So I'm heavily inspired by film and music videos, and that's kind of one of my biggest inspirations for my photography. And on here, it gathers loads and loads of film stills from all different films, and puts them all into this big collage kind of list. And you can scroll through and save the ones that you like and inspired by. And it also tells you where it's from, so what music video, what film. And I just find it a really amazing, powerful resource. I'm not sure, I'm not entirely sure if it's AI powered or what it is, but you get like 10 searches a day. And I just find it really great for trawling the internet and finding really great cinematic stills. And it's also really great for if you're doing lighting, because of how wonderfully a lot of films are lit. It's really great resource for seeing more of those kind of landscape and film cinematic stills. Also one of my older and more craftier ways of coming up with inspiration is just by collaging. I love to collage. I really love magazines. It's not as a cheap hobby as it used to be, but I really find that very cathartic, and it's nice to also feel the inspiration that you're creating. And it also feels a lot more fun to just cut out images and put them in and arrange them, and you also come up with quite interesting images from that. So I definitely recommend getting some magazines out, or getting a newspaper and just cutting things out that interest you, just to get you inspired. So I just wanted to, touch upon this, and it's kind of the way I like to approach my images. Sometimes, has anyone here been stuck in a creative rut? I find it very difficult sometimes when there's so much inspiration out there. It can feel a bit hard to figure out what exactly it is that I want to achieve with my images and self-portraits and content. And so I always like to go back to these basics, just the 5 senses, and I always seem to come up with something from that. It probably seems very obvious, but to me, I always like to look around me and see what I can utilize and how I can create an interesting image from what I've got and what I can see and what I can feel, touch, hear, taste. And I always find this a really great starter. So if you're struggling for inspiration, I always encourage you to look around. Some of the most unlikely objects can inform and help your self-portrait journey. So I definitely encourage that. And I thought for our first task, if you would like to just take a couple of minutes to look around your surroundings, wherever you are, and maybe note down 3 things that you can see or hear or smell or taste or touch, and maybe think a little bit more about how you can incorporate those 3 things into your self-portrait. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to have a little think, and if you can put anything that you think might be good on the chat, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Oh, that's really interesting. That's great. So what I've currently got in my flat that I will definitely be using is I've just got some daffodils. Nice. Yes. Half a face hiding behind a mug of tea or coffee with soft light on the face. That is amazing. What a great idea. 100%. And you can create so many interesting images from just household objects. Yes. Cluster and a G&T. Well, funnily enough, I'm going to show you something you can do with a G&T in a minute. Music, color, shadow. Amazing. Yep. All of those things can be inspiration, and you can play around with those kind of things at home. Your dog, amazing. Always fun to incorporate an animal in a self-portrait. We didn't talk about that, so that might be a great idea. Glass of wine, amazing. There's definitely a lot of things, I will touch upon that in a second, that you can create with glasses. A glass of whiskey, yeah, lots of screens, nice. Clock ticking, tea brewing, sunset. My wife, amazing. Yes, 100%. There's so many beautiful things you can take pictures of there and incorporate them into a self-portrait. So how I think we can approach this is like thinking about ways to make your portraits pop. We're in a world now where there's so many images, and we're consuming so many images on Instagram and social media all day, every day. So it's trying to think of something that's thought-provoking and different for your content. And so these things that you've listed here might seem maybe like everyday kind of objects, but you can really create something really interesting with those objects that you've got at home. Whether it's your facial expression, maybe you're representing a character, or you've got something to tell. Maybe think about what you're portraying and like why you want to make this image. It's all really important questions to ask yourself when you're creating. And it doesn't mean you have to have the answers. You might just want to take a picture because you want to take a picture. But it's always really good to have a reason in mind when we're creating art, or maybe thinking of why we want to do this. So that's a way I like to make my portraits pop. I always like to think of a character. I like to think of a backstory and why she's there, why she's looking a certain way. And that's how I like to approach my photography, but you might approach it slightly differently. This is a self-portrait I took of myself a while ago, and I have always had this recurring dream about being in a desolate, empty bar and being this bartender that has no customers. And I really wanted to recreate this in my studio. I'm currently moving house, so I had a lot of spare furniture there. And so I just thought to create this kind of image where she's looking out into the distance and wondering if any customer is ever going to turn up, and having a lucky cat, and no money is coming in. So that's the kind of inspiration I had for this particular image. Here's a couple of others that I've created. I, again, really like the sort of dark, warm tones, and this image, I really want to create this kind of ominous presence, like a bit witchy, a bit, we don't really know what's going on. Is she looking at the lamp to tell us the future, or is she just looking at the lamp? And yes, I am just using purely Harlowe hobo lights in all of these images. I don't use any other lights at the current. So yes. These other two are also self-portraits. I really like the idea of movement and dance, and I try to create this one as if we're looking at someone dancing in a nightclub, and that's when I used the iris to kind of create the idea of a glitter ball, kaleidoscope, disco light kind of effect. And this other one, I kind of wanted it to be like this angry, annoyed bartender, or someone fighting in a club. And so that's the kind of inspiration behind these particular self-portraits. So as we touched upon some of your props earlier, another great one to play around with, and I've only just started doing it recently, and I haven't fully delved into doing this yet, but this is just an idea, is to use a gin glass, to use your G&T and look at the way it distorts your face through the glass. I've always found this very fun, and there's loads of inspiration and interesting ways that you can shoot this. Also with other different types of glasses, whiskey glass, things like that. It's quite fun shooting self-portrait through a drink, and always helps as well to have one nearby. So I quite enjoyed using glass. I mean, everyone should have something like that at home, and it's really quite a fun way of photographing your face and something different. I also like to use a lot of props. In these ones, I just wanted to create this kind of like old ominous effect, and decided to use a scarf and just some glasses, but this again was entirely lit with the micro and a green filter on that, a green color gel. And this other one was also shot just with the mini, and I just, flowers are always a really lovely thing to photograph. So yeah, that's just a couple of ideas for things that you might have at home. So now the hard bit, shooting. So I guess I just wanted to ask you guys, if you'd like to pop on the chat, what kind of things you shoot with. Are you mainly phone creators? Do you use cameras? Yeah, it would be great to know. And I guess kind of a little bit about, does anyone use shutter apps at the moment, or do they have manual shutters? Like, what kind of things does everyone use? DSLR, iPhone, nice. Phone and cameras, cool. Digital and plenty of film, nice, great. Nice, great. Mirrorless, fab, yeah. Great. Amazing. That's awesome. So we've got a mixture here, mainly phone and DSLR users. Okay, so what I shoot with a Sony A7 Mark III, and I also have a Sony A6400 that I like to take when I'm traveling. I really love those two cameras, but I know that there's amazing Canon Leica bodies, all sorts of things out there. But for me personally, this is what I use for Sony. I have an app, which I'm going to get into in a little bit, that really helps with my self-portraits. Obviously, you also need to think about lighting. Are you going to shoot in natural light, or in studio lights, or with Harlowe, perhaps? And also, you need to think about how you're going to get that shutter to work. And are you going to put it on a timer, or are you going to use an app? Yep, great. So thanks for putting all your ideas on the chat. So these are the two that I use the most of. I started my self-portraits on a timer, which proved very difficult on my camera. I always had a bit of issues trying to get myself in focus. I tried many ideas and ways of, propping a broom up in the position where I was going to be stood, focusing it, running back. And it was a very long, laborious process. I can never get the focus quite right. So I decided to give apps a go. I did have a wired trigger at one point, but again, I always find them a bit annoying because they're in the shot. So I decided to start using these two apps. So for Sony, obviously you have Sony Imaging Edge app, but I'm assuming with Canon users or anyone else, you will have an app that you can use. And I start with Sony Imaging Edge app, which is really, really great. I had a couple of issues with it in terms of it not sort of syncing very quick. So I decided to try Shutter app. I'm not sure if it's specific to Sony users. I'm pretty sure it is, but I'm sure there's something equivalent if you're with a different camera. And this is really great because you can link it to your camera and you can start shooting, and you can see it in real time what you're shooting, and the focus has been a lot better now. You can manually change the settings while you're doing it, and you don't have to keep running backwards to the camera, which has made my workflow for self-portraits a lot easier. So I'd recommend if you're struggling on shooting yourself to maybe try an app because I think they're really, really, really useful. So here you can see me using various different apps. This one on the left is the Shutter app, which I prefer the most to use. As you can see, it doesn't look like it's super flowy, but it really is when you're doing it in the flesh. And I found that to be the best one so far. It also has a timer on it, so I can take a couple of shots at a time before I go and check it on the back of the camera. So that's made posing a lot easier. The Imaging Edge one is what I've shown you before. A similar reel, but very similar, and it's free, so it's a really great tool if you're using Sony. And then obviously iPhone timer, super easy to use, 3 to 10 seconds, and you can take great images. So those are the ones that I use, but I'm sure you might have corresponding ones for your camera. So here's just a couple of posing ideas. I am definitely not a model, so this is just some rough ideas of how you can pose if you're feeling a bit awkward to start off with. Won't apply to everyone. Probably not everyone will want to pose like this, but I just put a couple of ideas together, especially if you're new to taking pictures of yourself. It's always good to put one foot in front of the other. It's just a great way to pose. If you're stood, looking off to camera is always great. If you don't want to look straight down the barrel of the lens, leaning, things like that. On the floor is a different way of taking pictures of yourself. So that's just a couple of ideas. There's so many more interesting poses out there, but that was just a little idea of how I like to approach my posing. Good morning from Paris. So this week I decided to take myself off to... Now I'm going to share a couple of real ideas. So I'll let you watch this one. Hopefully you can hear it. Do a week of photography and exploring around the city on my own. I've not done street photography before and I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm going to give it a go. I've taken my Sony and my Harlowe iris light. This light was perfect as it fitted in my backpack for the flight. I brought my gloves because it's freezing, sunglasses, can you book Women Living Deliciously for a bit of inspo, and my coat, and off we go. Had a compulsory croissant to start, and here's how they turned out. I'm quite happy with the results, but Paris is a super busy place and it was pretty difficult to get my camera out in some of these locations. However, I had a super fun day and I've loved Paris so far. So sorry for a very abrupt start to that. However, I wanted to touch upon real ideas because another part of this webinar was to talk a little bit more about content creation and how you can really up your game on social media. So I'm definitely not an Instagram or social media whiz. I still find it complicated and confusing what works and what doesn't. However, Reels have always a sure shot great way to interact with your audience. And I have always found it a bit daunting creating Reels and trying to come up with ideas constantly. However, I've noticed when I've posted some of my photography on my page, if I just do a static carousel post, it doesn't do as well as if I do a reel and then show my photography. So one of the ways I really like to showcase my content and self-portraits is by doing behind the scenes reels and sneak peeks into my process in photography. And I totally understand it's probably not to everyone's tastes. It's like one of those things that feels a bit awkward to do. However, people really love to hear your process and like to hear more about you as a photographer. And I found it quite an effective way to get more people engaging with my work if they know who I am and why I'm doing it. It doesn't work for everyone, of course, and it's probably not the easiest thing to do, but for me in my process when it comes to social media, I like to make things as easy as possible. So for me, I like to set up a time lapse when I'm doing shoots, so I've got a bit of behind the scenes that I can tease on my stories, on my reels, and then I also obviously show a bit of my editing process, and then I show the final images. So it gets people interacting with me and my process without hitting them with my work before they know anything about me. And at the end of the day, a lot of social media is about being nosy and you want to find out more about people. So I think people really love to know more about you, but also what you can offer them. So I like to try and give like helpful tips or ideas, so it might inspire someone else to do a self-portrait. And sometimes it's less about trying to promote your work, but also trying to think of a way around how you can encourage people to buy your work without hitting them with just your work and buy it now, please. So this is how I like to approach it, and I like to come up with different reels. I tend to narrate over the top. That one in Paris, for example, I just did around my day, and I always seem to get really great interaction when I'm telling them about my day and thinking of ways I can shoot the day. So that's just an idea that I've been encountered when it comes to reels. These are just a couple of ideas. If you want to take a picture of it, screenshot it or whatever, if you are trying to create reels. I just wanted to open up on the chat what you guys think. Do you create reels at the moment? Is it a process that you enjoy? Do you have an Instagram? If you won't mind just dropping that on the chat. Meanwhile, I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of these ideas. I actually have started to use AI as a way of finding out real ideas and things that are trending. I don't tend to use AI much for much else, but however, I do find it really useful for things like this. It's quite hard to grasp Instagram and the trends all the time and trying to keep up with it. So I do find it interesting to find out very quickly what kind of things are trending at the moment. And these are some of the things that came up. So one location, multiple shots challenge, which is a really fun one. So you could be, I don't know, shooting a building. If we've had a lot of people on here shooting landscapes. So if you did want to go out and shoot a beautiful landscape, but try it from different heights, from different down low angles, all sorts of things like that, and then you condense them into a reel. It's a really great way of getting people's attention. How I got the shot is a fab one. Obviously, you show a picture, your end picture, and then maybe show behind the scenes of how you got that landscape where you stood out in the pouring rain for ages. People love things that show the truth and a bit more about you as a photographer. So I definitely recommend doing that. So I've got a couple of things on the chat. Yeah, I totally get you. I'm getting increasingly annoyed and disillusioned with social media. 100%. It's so difficult, but you have to just keep consistent and keep posting. I find it demoralizing. I think sometimes, you post something that you spent so long and hard on, and it doesn't get the interaction that it maybe you really wanted from it. However, sometimes the things that you really don't expect to do well and things that I've just posted on a whim end up being really popular and successful. So I would just encourage you to keep creating, and it doesn't reflect you or your talents as a photographer, but it's just the way social media is, and everyone's in the same boat. And you never really know what is going to be and blow up and be really big. But if you keep adapting these kind of real ideas, things that are on trend, and keep posting consistently, then Instagram notices that and will push you up the ranks, kind of thing. So yeah, those are just a couple of real ideas. I really like to keep it simple. So if you are not really into social media or creating reels, I would recommend just filming your process, just literally sticking your phone in the corner while you're doing something, and just shoot and do your normal process, but don't make it a massive deal that you're having to do it. Time lapse, slow motion, things like that are all really great things. Maybe just showing the prop that you're using and then showing the image that you created. All of these things, if you just put them all onto a quick reel and just post it and don't think about it too much, then I'm sure it will be a success. Reels, yeah. Okay. So these are the two apps that I use for editing. These two are really, really my favorite apps to use. I know probably a lot of people on here use Photoshop, which is amazing, and probably Final Cut Pro for editing, but these are the two that I've found the easiest, quickest, and simplest for me to get my images out there, create content, and really streamline my workflow. The Splice is a really great and powerful video editing app. Sometimes I don't edit my reels in Instagram, and I like to do them separately. You can record voiceovers. You can add them all in. Sorry, Neil. Sorry, I've just seen on the chat. Bye, Neil. Thank you. Thanks for coming and joining the webinar. Yeah, so Splice is a really great and powerful editing app, and I'd really recommend it if you're starting out using Reels. I want something simple, and this is definitely a really great app for that. I use Lightroom to edit my images. I don't know, does anyone else use Lightroom? I really, really enjoy using it. I find it so easy to use, and yeah, I really love experimenting with it. So I just wanted to show you a quick screen recording of my editing process. There's probably doesn't look like there's a process to this, but I really enjoy experimenting with the color grading and really playing with the shadows. And for these particular images, I wanted them to feel a little bit of vintage with greens and pinks. So this is just a screen recording of me experimenting with that. You can obviously use presets. But I tend to find with presets, they don't work for all images and all lighting scenarios. So I love to do it when I'm batch editing, or if I'm doing a lot of images in one go. But when it comes to like a self-portrait, I really like to edit individually and really get into the image and the colors. So yeah, I really enjoy using Lightroom. And that brings us on to our sort of roundup of today's webinar. It's time to tell your visual story. I really hope you enjoyed watching this. You can follow me on Instagram if you would like. I'll just pop this on here now. My Instagram is Fern_Deacon. I am definitely not a social media expert, but I really enjoy posting content and reels. So if you'd like to follow along, I'm learning as I go. So if you do want to follow my content, then feel free. Also, feel free to follow Muse by Lemesca if you haven't already. You're in with a chance of winning a Soul 5, so that's super exciting. And definitely worth giving them a follow. I think it will be announced on their stories, I think next week. I'll double check. Has anyone got any questions or anything? I'd like to open it up to anyone on the chat. If there's anything you would like to ask about my process or about self-portraits, I would love to hear. So feel free to. Oh, thank you. Nice. So you use Lightroom color to color correct and Photoshop for a bit of tweaking. Amazing. Nice. I've used Photoshop. Yeah. Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, I've never tried DaVinci Resolve, but I've heard really great things. I'll have to give it a go because yeah, I've heard really fab things from that. And yeah, Photoshop, great. Yeah, film photography I absolutely love to do. I've never tried it for self-portraits, if I'm honest, simply because it's a bit of a different process when it comes to editing and things like that. But it's definitely something I absolutely love to do. I'm definitely not an expert in film photography. However, I absolutely love old cameras. I love old camera shops, and I really love film, and I love the look it creates. As you can probably tell from some of my images, I'm definitely always trying to create a more of a filmic grain and look to my images. So yeah, there's a lot of happy things that I love doing with film photography. Oh, thank you, Alan. Don't get addicted to old cameras. Yeah, I think I'm already on that. Yeah, I find it. I love old camera shops as well. But yes, I am. I've got too many cameras as it is, and but yeah, it's a great hobby to have. Oh, thank you, Franz. Thank you. Oh, thank you for following. Ah, yes. Thank you. Oh, lovely. Yeah. Cross-processing film. Yeah. Nice. Ah, thank you. Thank you so much for coming along. So I guess as a little quick end, what photos are we now going to go and take? Is there anyone got any ideas that they're going to go and do this week? I'd love to hear them. Oh, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Has anyone got any photo shoots planned or any other things that they'd like to do? And if you have any other questions, please let me know. If you would like to also follow my company, it's Stair Society Studio, and we're based in Stockport, and you're more than welcome to come on down to the studio anytime. Also, feel free to follow Harlowe Creators. They share and they talk about their lights a lot on there, and they're a really amazing company. So please definitely give them a follow too. Lovely. Currently studying an MA in photography. Oh, amazing. On a family reflection theme project. That sounds really interesting. Oh, wow. Self-portrait with my cat. Iconic. Yes, Mikhail. Nice. Oh, black and white attorney headshots next. That sounds like a fun project. That's a great idea. Searching some of your old photos for new ideas. Definitely. That's a great shout. Also might be an idea for a collaging and inspiration project. Some insect work tomorrow. Wow. Macro Mondays challenge on Flickr. Wow, you sound super busy, Paul. That sounds amazing. That's great. I'm so intrigued as to how you can. Wow, Macro Mondays. That's fab. Excellent. Oh, well, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for putting all those bits on the chat. Does anyone have any questions or any other ideas and things that they would like to know for creating content or social media or any other reels and things they want to know about? If not, then I'm going to leave you with the follow by Lameska and me. Are there any other bits? Yeah, definitely. Great. Definitely check them out. They're really fab. Amazing. Well, thank you. I think I will end this webinar if there is no more questions. Ah, thank you, Steve. That's very kind. Ah, amazing. Well, I hope you enjoy creating your self-portraits. If you would like to tag us in them, I would really love to see your work. I'm always up for looking at other people's photography. So if you do want to tag me in any of your self-portraits that you take, and obviously tag Harlowe in them, I'll definitely take a look at them. I would love to see the kind of self-portraits and ideas you come up with. So thank you. Have a lovely rest of evening. And I look forward to seeing your content and images on Instagram and everything soon. Have a lovely evening. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you.